All right, hello, how are you? I am going to talk to you today a little bit about boring, probably things like tax and GST. This is for my Australian customers because I had a conversation with a client this morning and then I had the same conversation with my accountant as well. And I'm like, I need to talk about this because it is something that I think not everyone understands or knows about. So if this is relevant to you, I'm going to take my glasses off actually. If this is relevant to you, then hopefully this can be of some benefit. So what I wanted to talk to you about is when you are working out your GST that you have to pay and also what you've received, when you are sending any orders overseas to overseas customers, to anyone international, you do not need to charge them GST. You can keep the price the same, but you don't need to charge them GST. So those sales are GST free. So let's say that you had an order for $3,000 for a customer that went to New Zealand, for example. You can still charge that customer $3,000, but then there's no GST included in that amount. So that's a GST free sale. So when you're working out all the income you've received from your sales that quarter, or depends on how you work it out. Let's say you work it out in a quarter. And I'm no accountant or financial advisor, but I'm just explaining because sometimes you need to explain this to your accountant if they don't understand who your customers are. So let's say you've got those sales. Let's say you had $30,000 in sales for that quarter. A portion of those may be GST free. So make sure that they understand that some of those customers that you've received those payments from may be international. So you don't have to charge them GST. So those sales are GST free. So it may be a matter of you earmarking particular clients or customers who come in and letting your accountant know that these customers are international. That product has been exported, so you don't have to charge GST on it. If you say have a client that let's say that if you're service-based, you might have a client that you actually service them and they are international, you don't charge GST. So I have a client who's based in Singapore. I've got ones who are based in US. I don't charge them GST. So those sales are GST free of the income that I receive from them. And then also making sure things like someone like me who charges US dollars because I have clients all over the world. If you are one of my clients, making sure that my invoices, they include GST. So making sure that you are claiming for those invoices, even though they're in US dollars, that's an actual, I'm an Australian business, so you can claim the GST from those invoices. So all of these things, which again may seem boring and may seem like, oh God, I don't want to think about it. Your accountant doesn't necessarily know who your customers are. They don't necessarily know where you're sending your products. And if you have international customers, and if you're sending your products overseas, exporting them, then you don't need to pay GST on them. So just making sure that you're aware of that, making sure that one of my clients has got lots of trade customers who she sends stuff to the US. So she shouldn't be paying, portion of those sales should be GST free. So, all right, I hope that makes sense. And I really want to just add in there that, this is just something that you might need to talk to them about. They don't necessarily do it automatically for you. Some accountants obviously work with customers like that. Others don't. I spoke to my client this morning, and if you are sending products overseas too, another note is to make sure that you use commercial invoices. So it just makes it a lot easier for the importing country to figure out what the product is and if it's incurs a duty or not. So to find that out, all you need to do is search up your HSN code, which is an international code for whatever your product is. So let's say the one I was looking at this morning was for art. I just Googled what the code was for this particular art product and found that code, and then worked out that the import duty for the US for her was looking at for art was duty free. So then there's no duties that are owed for the customer at the other end. Some countries, like let's say New Zealand, or if you're bringing something into Australia, there is a cap. And so let's say if it's more than $1,000 Australian dollars coming into this country, we have to pay GST on that. If you are sending something, say for New Zealand, for example, and it's over $1,000, then there will be duties there will be GST that's charged on that, but there might not be any duties. So understanding the difference between those two is really important too. And everyone should know the product that you have, the HSN code. And depends on the product, depends on how detailed it can be. Some are really simple, but you should all be able to find out your HSN code, which is the tariffs customs code. That's a universal code around the world, and so that you know what it is, and you know if you're going to incur any duties either when you import it or if you export it as well, and you need to put that on the invoice. So a few things that this is just like over time, things that I have had the benefit and or experience of having trouble with. So understanding that sometimes there's going to be duties on top of what your order that someone might have paid you already, understanding how to create a commercial invoice and that you need 3 of them. I think you still do. I'm not sure if even that is the case. There's plenty of online versions, like you can Google what does a commercial invoice look like. It has to have particular information in there, like, country of origin, what the code is, and what it's, materials it might be made of and stuff like that. And then, understanding if you are exporting to a different country, what are the import duties that either the customer or you will incur, because if you are selling, exporting and taking your product global, then you need to know these things, because the customer shouldn't have to work it out themselves. It should be up to you to do it for them. And then when you work out your prices for selling to those people, you want to have a lot of those things figured out already, so then you can give them a landed price of what it's going to cost for them to get it to them. Because so let's say if it's a retail customer who's just buying online, they don't want to have to deal with extra customs or duties. That's just annoying for them. So the customer experience, you want to be a pleasant one and not a painful one. And then if you're sending it to a store, if you've got a stockist overseas, you want them to not have extra fees. You want them to be very clear what they're paying and what things they have to owe before they actually get the order. So I hope that's really helpful. Lots of people may have this, sorted out with their accountant already or their bookkeeper. But as I said, I've just been working this through with mine as well, because I'm letting them know that those particular customers are international. So I shouldn't be charged GST for those, those are free GST free sales. And then I'm also having to let them know that particular other charges that I incur, they do have GST included in them, because they don't always see those invoices specifically. So I've got to really make sure that they are counting the GST I'm paying as well. And that's especially for, let's say I work with some Australian clients that still charge US dollars, but it looks like I don't need to pay GST because they're a US customer. But for example, I'm paying them and they're an Australian customer, so GST is included in the invoice. All right, this is just probably not a topic that most people want to talk about too long, but hopefully that's helped you understand a little bit more, and maybe have a conversation, especially it's BAS time if you're doing your accounting. You might need to have a conversation and make sure that your things are up to date, you're in your system, your customs are allocated the right way, and you're not paying too much GST, or you're claiming enough, and you're not putting the export sales into your sales in your BAS, because they should be GST free. All right, lovely to chat with you here. Let me know if you have any questions or if this has been helpful, because I really want to make sure that you understand that you might need to do this and work with your accountant and to let them know, so that that's clear. And if any of my clients are on here, make sure you're claiming the GST from my invoices, because you can, and your accountant might not realize that you can. So make sure you are. If you're one of mine, I can see a couple of my clients on here as well. So I wanted to make sure I said that. All right. Let's talk more about this if it's something you want to ask me about, or if it's something that you are trying to figure out about exporting. You want to take your products global and you're like, how do I actually do that? How do I set my pricing? How do I work with, clients overseas? What does it all mean? There are barriers, and there are some things that make it harder and easier if you know them up front. You don't want to be shocked by, things that come up later, like import duties and certification you might need, or all those sort of things, and making sure you're paying the right tax. So let me know, because I love helping clients get through those things easier and faster, rather than thinking it's just too hard, I don't want to do it, because the world's a big place and you could definitely sell products globally. It depends on what your product is, and it doesn't have to be too complicated. It is possible. So I'll share more, and hopefully this has been helpful for you today. All right, I'm going to come on live more, because I don't do it enough, I don't think, and I really need to make sure I get out here and share. So if you want to hear more live stories, or you want to have some topics, let me know and I'll share them. Thank you. Oops.